Hello everyone.
Mhm.
So welcome you all to the Selenium training session day 1. So what we are offering is this, which you have already gone through the flyer, that this is the week-wise structure of what we are gonna cover in this sessions. So week 1 we are going for manual testing concepts. So today is the manual testing concept day. And we have two trainers, Mr. Anand and myself, Chavi Sharma. So he will be taking your advanced course, and I am here for your um, manual testing and Java concepts. Okay, Java, core Java and everything I will take. Uh, okay, so today's topic is about software testing overview. SDLC, that is software development life cycle and its models, principle of testing, software testing life cycle. This is software development life cycle, and this is software testing life cycle. Okay. Software testing types, software testing methods. What are the different methods in software testing? Software testing levels, software testing documentations. I've given you that, like what are the documentations, like test plan and test scenarios. And we will learn about the test cases, how to write test cases and all those things. Then defect management process, and then interview questions. So these are the topics which we are going to cover today. So do you know anything about software testing? Like what is software testing? Why do we do software testing? Any idea?
To
What
find
is
the
testing?
find any bugs, if there are any bugs, or what are expecting software, is it not matching with the outcome,
Hmm. Yes,
and expected outcome actually.
correct, correct. So testing is actually making a product very like a good quality product, right? How how we can make a good quality product? When there will be no bugs, or when we can remove those defects or bugs from the product, then it will be like a good quality product. And always customer want a good quality product, so that it will not crash, or it will not when the users are going to use those product, it should not be problem for them to use it. Okay. Uh, so if while development only, if you prevent all the defects, then you are good to go. But what happens is, developer are the developer are the um, owner of the project. Like they created that project, like they are the product is baby for them, right? So they don't able to find all the defects in their own product. So there comes the tester finds the um, defects in their product and report it to them, so that they can rectify those defects. So tester job is to find the defects from a product and then inform the developer to rectify it. Okay. So this is the use of a this is the basic uh, what do you say basic job of our tester, to find the defect and to inform them that please rectify that defect on your product. Okay. So so about the introduction of software testing. Software testing is defined as an activity to check whether the actual result matches the expected result. Okay, to ensure that the software system is defect free. Okay, testing is a testing of a software also involves the implementation of product module system, part of evaluation all or some of its properties through testing. Tester can identify the errors, correct? So tester can identify the errors and the gaps and the requirement missing elements in a project, and inform those things to the developer, correct? Tester can be done both, like this testing can be done both manually and by using any tool, like an automation tool. Both can be done, correct? So now why testing is important? In today's world, it is completely dominated by the machines, and their behaviors is controlled by the software powering it, correct? So well, the machine, what is machine? Like whatever software we created, correct? So machine should behave as per our requirement, not as per their requirement, right? So whatever we wanted, the machine should work accordingly. So that's why we do testing, so that when some other person or other user are using that product, that time this should not be crash, or should not behave as per this should behave as per our thinking, not like it should crash or somewhere it will go down, system get down. So that's why we do testing, so that the machine or the software should work as per our understanding and as per our requirements. Okay, so that's why we testing is very important. Now why? So yeah, this is also answered. Now who do the testing? Who does the testing? Anyone can tell who does the testing?
Like everyone, like developer, tester.
The tester,
Correct.
Yeah.
Sorry,
QA tester.
someone.
No,
Yeah,
I said
tester
said
do the
everyone.
testing, that's for sure. But project developer also do the testing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They do their part of testing. Project lead also do the testing. Team manager, end users, everybody do their testing. Okay, so that's what, if someone says you that who does the testing, so everyone, it's all depends on the company also, that how the other see, different organization have their own way of setup, like who all will do testing. But usually every part of the person who are involved in this project do their testing. Like software tester do testing for sure, but everybody like project manager also do their part of testing. So everyone is involved in the testing. Okay, now what do you understand by SDLC, software development life cycle? Anybody know about this? Can you explain it a little bit?
Software development life cycle is a systematic process that to ensure that quality and correctness of the software and process, right?
Yeah, and the process, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, so software development life cycle is the process of you can say industry to design, development high quality software, correct? Software development life cycle aims to develop high quality software.
Yeah.
That means to exceed customer expectations, correct? To reach the their expectation with proper time and the cost estimation.
Yeah.
Like the time which they have given to us, in that time frame you should deliver that project, and also it should be cost estimated. Matlab, means like whatever cost they have given to us, you should deliver that project in that cost. So as you can see here in the diagram, it involves many phases, and let me explain you each of these phases one by one. So first phase is what? This one, requirement analysis. Correct. So what is first phase? Requirement gathering, analysis is the most important phase in software development lifecycle. Here what we do, here business analysts collect the requirement from the customer or the client as per the client business needs and the and like documents the requirement in the business requirement document, that is called as BRS, business requirement specification. So in different organization it can be called by different name, like business requirement specification or customer requirement specification, or some might call it as business specification only. So it all depends. Some says it is a use case, or some says it's a requirement document. Anything can be called it. In different organization, it is called by different name. Okay. Analysis phase. Once the requirement gathering and analysis is done, the next step is to design it. Correct. So design the document. Or design and document the product requirements and get them approved by the customer. So this is done through SRS and SRS, that is software requirement specification document, and the software requirement specification consists of all the product requirement that is designed and developed during the project life cycle. Okay. And the key people who are involved in this phase are project managers, business analysts, and all the senior people of the team involved in all the requirement gathering. Okay. Now comes the designing part. Okay, so design is the second phase, or the you can say third phase, because here it is says defining also. So requirement analysis, defining, and then designing. So designing is in two steps, like high level design and low level design. Correct? Which we called as HLD. It gives the architecture of the product to be developed and done in a. It is done by the architect of the project. Correct?
Yeah.
And the second is low level design. Low level design is done by the senior developer. Correct? So here each and every product should work, and how every product should work, that is also defined here in design part. Okay. Now comes the coding part. So coding happened by developer. So all here the senior, junior, fresher, all developers are involved here in the coding part, and they write the code for the product. Okay, so the outcome is like a source code document. That is the outcome, like source code document you will get after this phase. Okay. Now we'll come to the testing phase. Here comes the testing phase. Okay, so when the software is ready and ready to test, it comes to the tester, and tester do the testing according to the build which is given by the developer after the coding. Okay, so the tester will do their testing and find the defects. Either the test of the software manually they can test, or by the automation tool, depending upon the process which is defined in the software testing life cycle, whether they have to use manually or they wanted to use any tool. Okay, so once the QA, that is the quality analyst, make sure that the software is error free, it goes to the next stage, which is called as deployment. Correct? Which is next stage is deployment or implementation of the project, and the outcome of this project is the quality product. Correct? So that is the deployment. After deployment, what we do maintenance, because see, 100% testing is not possible, correct? We cannot do 100% testing. So what we do is we give the maintenance, and maintenance should be done as per the SLA. SLA is what? What is SLA? I just told you. Can anyone answer about the SLA? What is SLA? That is service level agreement. I have not told you. That is service level agreement. So maintenance is done according to the SLAs. SLA is service level agreement. Whichever agreement you have used, that how much maintenance support you will give. Maintenance is nothing but the support which you give when the product is all done, deployed. Then also there are something which they have agreed on. So so they give the maintenance support for some time after the product is deployed also. Okay, so there are various phases involved in SDLC, and it is very important interview question. Even though you go for the automation, like automation interview, they always ask about the, can you describe the different phases of SDLC? So this is the way you, if you describe about different phases of SDLC, it will be very good. Like what all the outcomes of requirement analysis, what all design phase, high level design, low level design, what is the outcome of coding, what is the outcome of testing, what is the outcome of the deployment, and why we do maintenance. So you should know everything properly. Okay, so now this is all about the SDLC, that SDLC phases. Now these phases can be used in different ways, like different methodologies, like waterfall model, spiral model, and V model. These are the models which we are gonna cover today. Okay. Anyone knows about waterfall model? How it works? Yeah.
Water model is very oldest and very well known, like development process is like waterfall model, and it's it's a in a waterfall model, each step should be like completed for moving the next steps.
Correct. This is the waterfall model. Like,
yeah,
you are correct. So every step is completed before moving to the next step. So waterfall model is a very traditional model, you can say. It's like old model. It's a sequential design process, which is often used in SDLC, in which the process is seen. You can see it's going downwards, like water, like waterfall, how water is falling from up to down. So this include different phases. Same thing, like requirement, design, deployment, development, testing, deployment, and maintenance. These are the SDLC life cycle. Same thing is happening here also, but this methodology is the best suited for short-term projects where the requirement will not change. For example, suppose you are doing some attendance management or the calculator. So the calculator won't change by time, correct? So the product which are stable and don't have any changes, any frequent changes in it, this model is the best for those type of products and requirements. Like simple, it's very simple to implement requirements and finalize earlier in the life cycle. Like all the requirements are finalized in earlier only. You cannot you don't have to change it, like attendance sheet, like calculator or attendance management. Everything is finalized. It's a stable project, correct? So you don't have to go back and change their requirements. So for those projects, this model is good. You don't have any chaos to chaos to change the requirements of that particular project. And to implement this model are minimal as compared to other methodology. It's very simple to use, and every phase has their own specific deliverables to give high visibility to the project manager and to the client. So what are the disadvantages? These are all the advantages of the waterfall model. It's very easy to use, and you don't have any chaos for all the requirement is already set. You don't have to worry that requirement will change. Okay, so once the requirement is done, then only you go to the design phase. Once the design phase is done, then only you go to the development phase. And once whole development is done, then only you go to the testing phase, and so on. Okay, so so these are the advantages. Now, what are the disadvantages? The main disadvantage is you cannot backtrack. Backtracking is not possible. Once you have done with the requirement, you cannot change it. If the design phase is ready, you cannot change it. So usually for the small project, they prefer waterfall model. Why? Because there's a cost involved, right? If they keep on changing their requirement, the cost will going to increase. And if the cost is already fixed, you prefer the waterfall model if the cost is fixed, right? Because if they keeps on changing, then it will be like a different cost involved in it. So that's why sometimes they prefer waterfall model. Yeah. So the disadvantages is we cannot backtrack it. Backtracking is not possible. We cannot go back and change the requirement once the design phase is reached. Okay. And the changes is you cannot do any coding change also, anything. You cannot do that. You cannot overlap the phases, correct? You cannot overlap the phases, and by this customer may not be satisfied also, because they want some changes and they need and they cannot incorporate those changes in the product. So maybe the customer is not satisfied. So that is you can say that waterfall model is not that flexible for okay. So you can say that waterfall model is not a flexible model, and it is not good for the flexible projects. If the project is keep on changing their requirements, then waterfall model is not a good thing to implement. Am I clear? Like everyone understand what is waterfall model?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. Now we will go to the spiral model. Okay. Spiral model is a combination of iterative development process model and the sequential level development model. Okay. So this work as a iterative nature. It is a combination of both prototype development process and linear development process. That is your waterfall model, and this model plays more emphasis on risk analysis. Mostly this model adopt large and complicated project, correct? So waterfall model used for the simple project and small project, but the spiral model is used for the large project and complicated project where risk is very high. So here we do the risk analysis also, right? So in every iteration, which starts with the planning, correct? So the planning is the first step. It starts with the planning and ends with the product evaluation, correct? So this is the arrow which it is going. So that is why it is called a spiral model. Okay. So let's take an example of the product development team like Microsoft. Okay, we just take example like Microsoft. They know that there will be a high risk, correct, and they face lots of difficulty in the journey of their developing and releasing the project. And also they know that they will release the next version of the project, correct? Because every version is coming in Microsoft, like Microsoft 8, 8.1, 9, 10. So they have their different versions of the, and they know that the upcoming version will gonna come, correct? So they know that they will release the next version of the product when the current version is in existing. Then also they know that new version are going to come, and they prefer spiral model to develop the product in an iterative nature. Okay, so they prefer the spiral model. Why? So that they could release one version of the product to the end user and start developing the next version, which includes new enhancements and improvement on the previous versions. So they keep on, they know that this new version will come, and how they do the improved version? By knowing that what all the end users are facing the problems, or what are their feedbacks. So with the help of their feedbacks, they create their improved versions. So on the basis of issues faced by the user in the previous version, like in the Microsoft Windows 8, they found out some of the feedbacks that this is not working, that is not working. So they release the new version based on the user feedback, and the improved version is 8.1, and it went on. So it mainly undergoes phases like planning phase, and in the planning phase there are requirement gathering, cost estimation, and resource allocation is being done. And the next phase is what? This planning phase is done, then there is risk analysis phase. Here what we do, strengthen and they find out that what is the strength and what are the weakness of their project, they know. And then they comes the development phase. They know that what is their strength and weakness, and according to their weakness they develop the engineers will start coding internally and testing the deployment, and it's been done. The advanced version is done. Okay. And the last is evaluation phase. In evaluation phase, like client evaluation. So client side testing is done, and the feedback is given to that, what all the things to be changed, and everything, what is needed, whatever there is feedback given by the client. So what are the benefit of this model? It allows requirement changes. Okay, and it is also suitable for large and complicated project, which I have told you. The main thing is it is allow the better risk analysis. So risk analysis is the new thing which is added in this spiral model. So it's very good for risk analysis, and it is cost effective also due to good risk management. And what are the disadvantages? Can anyone tell the disadvantage of this model? So the disadvantages is it's not suitable for small projects. And the success of the project depends on the risk analysis phase. So for the small projects, it is not good. Why? Because so many steps and risk steps are required here. And if there is no risk analysis requirement, then why to waste your time in all these this phase, right? So that is the disadvantages. Okay. Now comes the most popular model, that is V model. Can anyone tell about the V model, that like verification and validation model, we also called it. So can anyone tell about the V model? What is verification? Yeah.
Verification is like a process that ensure that we are building the product right.
Mm-hmm.
And validation is we are building the right product, right?
Yeah, correct. So the requirement actual should match to the expected. That is there. But what is the difference between a validation and a verification? Both do the same thing, but there is a difference.
Yeah,
One
they are-
involves paperwork and another is like testing.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. So yeah, you are correct. Like
And the verification also involve like inspection, review, and walkthrough.
Correct, correct. Very true. So verification is like a static analysis technique, right? You know what is static, what is dynamic?
Yes, like static, like document and files.
Yeah.
And static like coding before the, like we do first static, then dynamic testing.
Mm-hmm. Then we do dynamic testing.
Yeah.
Correct. 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 So verification is like a static analysis technique that is done without executing the code. Right. So execution doesn't involve in verification.
Yeah.
Both do that. Both check that whether the actual result and the expected results are matching or not. This is very important. Like tester, what they do, they match the expected and the actual. This is the job of a tester. But there are so many techniques involved in that. So verification is a static analysis technique which you have done that. For example, inspection, walkthrough, review, correct. So that you have told. So this is the verification. Now, what is validation? Validation is the dynamic analysis technique where testing is done by executing the code. When you are executing the code, that time you what defect you get is validation. For example, your functional and non-functional testing techniques. But that time when you find some defects or some deviation, that is called as validation. In this model, the development and the QA activity are done simultaneously. Can you see? These are the developer activity and these are the tester activity. So that both the activities are doing simultaneously.
Yeah.
Sorry. So there is no discrete phase called as testing, rather like when the requirement comes, then only the testing will be started. At least the writing of the testing is started. Correct? Just a minute. So when there is a requirement phase, then the acceptance testing will be taking place side by side. Like they will write their acceptance testing what you say test cases. They will start it. So the verification and the validation activity go hand in hand. So just we'll have a look with the figure here, and you can see here the Left side is shown about the development activities and the right side shows the testing activity. Okay, so now we will understand each phase in depth. Okay, so first we will talk about the left side. So we know that the left side activity is done by the development, and normally we feel what testing can do only after development phase, correct? But what is the beauty of this model is that testing phase can be done in all these phases. All these phases testing can be done. So the requirement are collected and studied. So here, how the system is implemented is not important, but what the system is supposed to do is very important, like brainstorming session. Here what all is done: brainstorming session, walkthrough session, interview sessions, and all is done in the like this. In this phase, everything should be clear. Okay, so verification activity, like you have told, Meena has told, right? So all the reviews and all everything should be done, and the validation activity like creation of your user acceptance test cases. Here, what is the validation? Your user acceptance test cases should be ready, and test cases and artifacts product here will be like artifacts means like what all you can create here. You can create your requirement understanding document, your user acceptance test cases, that is UAT test cases. You also called it UAT test cases. So that you can prepare. At the same time, when the managers and all the stakeholders are gathering the requirement, that time you create your user acceptance test cases. So this is all about the UAT phase. Now talking about this software specification. In this, a high level design of software is built, correct? So I told you that there is a high level design and low level design. Okay. In the design phase, there are two steps: high level design and low level design. So here the team comes up with the module which will be created based on the software and the hardware needs, correct? So verification activity that includes here are design, review, validation activities like creation of system test plan. System test planning can be created. Okay, and the traceability matrix is also created. Okay, so what all can be created here in the system testing? System test cases, feasibility report, system test plan, hardware and software requirements. So all these can be created in this phase. Okay. Now next phase is your architecture phase. Okay, in this phase, based on your high level design, software architecture is created. These models have their own relationship and dependencies. Architecture diagrams have database table, technology details, all finalized in this phase. So again, verification activity is what? Designing, reviewing, and includes the designing and reviewing, that includes. Okay, and the validation activity are like design documents, okay, integration test plan and test cases. So in this phase, all the integration test planning and integration test cases can be designed, and database table is also designed here. Okay, all these database tables and everything will be designed here in this phase. Okay, now coming to the module design, which is also called as low level design. In this phase, each and every module and component are designed individually, correct? Because what is happening is high level design is done. Now the low level design, the actual coding part has arrived. Okay, so what is done in the actual coding part, there you write the unit testing. So unit test cases have been done. Sometimes what happened is unit test cases is also done by the developers, correct? So we start with the okay. So unit test cases can be done by the sometimes by the tester, otherwise it is done by the developers only. Okay. So in this phase, actually what we are doing is we are developing the coding part in this phase. Develop like in verification, we are doing the coding part, and in the validation, we are doing the unit test cases. We are writing the unit test cases. Okay. Okay. So test cases, review, checklist. So this is all about the left hand side now, correct? So left hand side is done. Now talking about the right hand side, which is demonstrated about the testing activity or the validation phase. So we will start from bottom, that is unit testing. In this, on low level design, execute, as I told you, we execute the unit test cases, which is a unit test cases is what? White box testing. We will learn about white box testing also later. So what is white box testing? Anyone can tell what is white box testing technique?
Yeah, well, like what the code can be seen, whatever code that can be seen, that is called white box.
Yeah. So in the white box testing technique, where a piece of code is written, which involves a method to test whether the code what we are expecting the output is correct or not. So we can see the code. The technique is where we can see the code and we can perform the development accordingly. Okay, so this testing is basically performed by the development team. Okay, in case of any anomaly, defect are logged and tracked. So the artifacts or the product of this is unit test cases execution result. So everything, so execution is done. Now as the coding is done, so we can execute those unit test cases, and the outcome is what? Unit test cases result. So here we get the outcome of the unit test cases, correct? Now comes the integration testing. So in this phase, we get the so integration test cases can be done here. Okay. So in this case, what we do is any anomaly defect if we find, so this is done by the testers. So any defects we find, we track the defect here. Okay, we file the defect and we inform the developer that these are the defects which we are getting, and we can report those defects to the developer. Okay, everyone is getting what I am saying? Is there any doubt or any anything you want? Because this is very important and a little bit confusing also. Okay, so what you do is you log the test results and you log the defect reports also, whatever defect you got. So all these what are the outcomes of this? These are test results. Okay, test logs. whether your all the test cases are pass or fail, because test cases writing you have all done, correct? While doing this, you have done with the test case writing. Now what you are doing, you are started testing it because your coding part is done. So you are now executing these things because you are already done. When there is a when there is a user requirement, you are done with your writing of the test cases. When there is software specification, you are done with the system test cases. When there is high level designing is done, you are done with your integration test cases writing, okay, and so on. So when the coding is done, you are ready with your unit test cases because you already done it and you are now executing it, correct? So you are executing your test cases now, and the output will be what? Test results, test log, defect reports, test summary report, updated traceability matrix, that whether you are whatever result what you are getting is according to your traceability matrix or not. Okay, so these are the different outcomes of your testing, correct? Is that clear to everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we can move to next. Next is principle of testing. Okay. So what is the principles of testing? Can anyone tell and explain what are the principles of testing? And it's a very important interview question. Many times they ask about what are the principles of testing. And it's often asked in interview. And these are the 6 important principles of testing. Okay, I will explain it. Detection of bug. Okay. So main principle of, as I told you earlier also, the main principle or the main part of like main role of software tester is to find the defect, correct? So the principle also plays a significant role in finding the bugs in your product. So software testing can help in detecting bugs. Software testing help to reveal the bugs that may or may not be detected by the developer. As I told you, the developer have their own way of finding defect, and the software tester has their own way of finding the defect. Okay. However, testing of a software alone cannot be confirmed that your developed product or the developed software is error-free. Hence, it is essential to write the test cases and find out as many defects as it is possible. Okay, so merely software testing is not gonna help. You have to write your test cases. So that is the important thing, is you have to write your test cases. Otherwise, what will happen is you can find the defects, but you may not touch all the important requirements. So it's important to write the test cases to find the bugs. Okay. Next is effective testing. Testing with effectiveness is also impossible. Why? Until your project or the application under test has a straightforward structure having limited input, it won't be like your won't be likely or achieved to check all the feasible set of data module and scenarios, right? So effective testing is what? When effective, like all these things are not possible. What you are saying is everything you can do, but every effectiveness of the testing is 100% not possible. That you are explaining to the whatever interviewer. If they ask you, you explain it like that. Okay. Early testing. What is early testing? Why it is important? Earlier you will be like testing will always start earlier when the product is ready, correct? But nowadays when you get the requirement, as I told you in the V&V model, correct? So testing can be start from the user requirement only. Okay, so as the early testing start, there are more chances of you to get more errors, correct? If because now tester is also aware of what is the requirement, everything is given to the tester also, so they are more aware of what the project is all about, right? So early testing, you will begin to test your project or software, the better you will find and utilize your existing time, correct? So that is very important. Now what is defect in clustering? Defect in clustering is like there are some important areas where you find the defects in like maximum count you get it, correct? There are certain areas which are very complicated to understand or very complicated to implement while doing the coding. So that time that part is known by the tester also, right? So this is a very complicated area. So there could be more defects you can find it. Why? Because because it's a complicated area and it's difficult to implement or difficult to code. There you will get the more number of defects, right? So that area is called as defect in clustering. Okay, so this is also very important interview question, like what is defect in clustering? So always focus on those parts when you are testing. No, always focus on those areas which is very difficult to code or which is very difficult to understand or difficult to implement, correct? So you will get more defects on that area. Okay, so that is the what you can say a trick for finding more defects, because when you do the software testing, no, your manager or your lead will always tell you, can you find the defects, can you find the defects in this particular product? And the more defect you find, the more good tester you are called, right? So always focus on those areas which are very difficult to understand, or always focus on those areas which are difficult to implement. So there you get the more defects. Okay, now testing in context dependent. An error free or a bug free software is a myth, correct? Just because when a tester tests an application and did not find a defect or in the product and does not indicate or imply that your product software is ready for shipping. So as a time of testing module or working as a software tester, you can test your, like, it's not like you are done with your testing. If you say that you are ready to ship your product, it's not like you are saying that the product is error free. You are saying that whatever you have tested, it is not giving you the error, but it could be some error could be there. Okay, so that is called as testing in context dependent. Means whatever you have tested, you find it good, but if you but it's you are not 100% sure that it's error free. So that is called as context dependent, because it's it's according to you that it is a good product. Okay, so that is all about principles of testing. Now moving further. Okay. So did you get all any doubt whatever we have done till now? Is there any question? You can ask me now. I know it's a little bit confusing and very much what you say, too much of study today. But as today is manual testing, we have to do all this brainstorming.
Right now, I don't have it, but if I have it, can I ask you, like, can I message you?
Yeah, sure. You can. Okay. You can ask anytime, anytime later also.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Now, moving to this, software testing lifecycle is a sequence of specific activities conducted during the testing process to ensure that the software quality goals are met. So we have done with this software testing lifecycle. Okay. Now types of software testing. Okay. So there are mainly two different type of software testing. First is obviously manual testing, and the second is automation testing. And when we do manual testing, we are not using any particular tool, and we are just writing our test case according to the requirement document which has given by the client, and we write our test case and we manually go in the application and we check that whatever requirement they have given is working, the application is working according to that or not. Okay. But when we do automation testing, in the automation testing, we use certain tool. Like in our course also, we are gonna learn Selenium tool, which automatically we write our test cases and it automatically tests the application. After we writing our test cases, when we execute it, it automatically go to that application and test it. And if you write, suppose hundreds and hundreds of test cases, you can execute it overnight, and after that, when you come in the morning, you can see all those logs and everything is saved in certain area, and then you can find out that what all the what all the mismatch or deviation you are facing. So this is automation testing. Okay. Automation testing is basically done in the regression testing, and in the initial steps we don't use automation testing. Why? Because in the initial step we are not very sure that this system or application is stable or not. Basically, when it is stable and we have to write it, we have to execute it again and again, that is regression testing. So that time you design your test cases in automation and then you do the testing. Okay. Now, now we will see that how automation testing beats the manual testing. See, in the manual testing, as we know that it is extremely time consuming and it is high risk of error, and requires a tester all the time. Like when you are doing manual test cases, like you are When you have written with your test cases, you manually go to that application and then test it. And then what you do it, you say that whether that requirement is matching with the expected or not. And then you say pass or fail. So all the time you need one tester in your system to sit and test that whether it is correct or not, right? So manually you manually created your logs and the repositories, and you manually uh, post it to your client, correct? So all these are done manually, and when you do all these things manually, you have a limited scope, right? So when you get your new build or your new project, like some changes are given to you to the developer, and then developer give you the new build. So when there is less time, there is a limited scope, right? You cannot execute all your test cases. So that time you are limiting the test cases and your scope. So that is also the um, risk for your system. Why? Because you are not executing all the test cases and you're risking your system. So it might happen that the test cases which you are not executed has some error. So it has a limited scope. You cannot execute all the test cases and you are risking your application. So all these things can be overcome by automation testing. Automation testing is very fast and frequent execution. It's more accurate as it is not involved human beings. So whatever you have written in your test case, it will be more accuracy. Less investment in human resource. Like once you have done with your test cases writing, after that, there is a less investment in human resource. All the time you don't have to sit and manually do the execution. If you are done with writing your test cases, you can just execute it and you are done with your testing. It's time saver and cost effective. Early time to market. As you are done with your test cases soon, you get time to market your uh, product as you are done with your testing, because you are all your test cases are ready and you are executed, so you can get time to market also. And supports retesting. Of course, like for retesting only, you have automated all those test cases. So retesting or regression testing, so automation is very helpful. Now comes the software testing methods. Okay, so these are black box testing. These are the three methods: black box testing, white box testing, and gray box testing. So this black box testing is also called as behavioral testing, where the software tests the internal structure and design and implement and user interface of product is being tested, which is not known to the tester. So that that is the reason it is called as black box testing. Why? Because your code is blank. You cannot see the code. Just based on your user documents or requirement documents, you just write your test cases and execute it. Right? Next is white box testing. As I've already explained you, or you also have said that you can see the code over here, right? So you can see the code, and it is also called as glass box testing. Okay, and as the name says, glass box testing, you can see through it, right? So don't get confused if someone says what is glass box testing. So glass box testing is nothing but white box testing. In this type of testing technique deals with testing the internal structure or logic design and implementation of different modules, right? Okay, so next is gray box testing. Okay, these are all white box testing. Black box testing and white box. Now, what is gray box testing? In this, it combines the concept of both black box and white box testing. In gray box testing, internal implementation detail is partially known to the tester, while the rest are not known to the tester. And that is the reason it is called as gray box testing, because some part are visible, but some part are not visible. So this is the three methods of software testing. Okay, now we can see that what is the difference between functional testing and non-functional testing. Can anyone tell what is functional testing and what is non-functional testing? Any idea?
In functional testing, we usually test the functionality of the software, and in non-functional testing, like in non-functional testing, we usually test the like performance of the software, the load,
Correct.
space. Is a
Yeah. Correct. It's true. Like functional testing is done what you say. Usually we do functional tester of like software tester do the functional testing, and the performance testing or the like you say load testing, stress testing, all these testing are done by the non-functional tester. Okay. So functional testing is what we have studied, like unit testing, system testing, all we have studied, right? So what is unit testing, what is system testing, you know, what integration testing, that comes under functional testing. Okay. And non-functional testing is like you can say stress testing, load testing, when there are large volume of people involved in one thing. When you are testing a site, suppose you are testing a Facebook site, right? So what you are doing, you are designing the login, right? Login, logout, whether people are able to search something or not, whether you are doing, these are all system testing, right? All these things, small things like whether you are able to search, whether you are able to create your account, whether you are able to put your photos in that account. So all these are functional testing. Now comes to non-functional testing is, okay, so whether hundred and thousands and like lakhs of people are able to log in at the same time or not, that is called as non-functional testing. Load testing, stress testing is what, when everyone is means like large number of people able to enter the same data or not, whether large number of people are able to search the same thing or not, that is called as stress testing or volume testing, when large people are doing the same thing, and is that same application is able to stress that load or not, I mean able to perform according to the requirement or not, that is called as non-functional testing. So performance before non-functional testing. So all these things, so functional testing is always done before non-functional testing. Why? When the application is ready, then only you will do the non-functional testing, right? I mean, you can do all the load testing or the stress testing after that one. So first we do the functional testing and then only we perform the non-functional testing. Okay. Now it always based on the customer requirement. Okay. Based on the customer requirement, like whether this is expected or whether this is doing actual thing is doing with the expected thing or not. No? So all these are functional testing. And now the expectation, the customer expect that hundreds and thousands and millions of people can able to log into the application simultaneously. So that is the expectation. That is not requirement. They expect that this should be happen. Okay. it's not written in the requirement, but they still expect that if you have created some login page of like Facebook login page, so simultaneously all the customers or all the users are able to log into the same application. It is not given in the requirement, but still they expect it. Okay. So describe what the product does. I mean, whatever the product does, they will, the functional testing do that. How the product works, how the product works is the non-functional testing. Like, this is the way it should be done. Like, all the customers should be able to log in the same time. That is non-functional. Like, describe how the product works. Like, how we are doing this things, like that is comes under non-functional testing. Okay, so unit testing, acceptance testing, smoke testing, integration testing, regression testing, all those testing comes under functional testing. So basically in this course, what we are doing functional testing. Okay, for non-functional testing, it comes the performance testing, scalability testing, volume testing, load testing, stress testing. So for all these things, you need a tool, correct? So different types of tools are there for testing all these things. So non-functional testing, one more thing is, cannot be tested without tool, right? This unit testing, acceptance testing, they can be done manually as well as by the tool, but performance testing cannot be, or the non-functional testing cannot be performed without tool. How you'll find thousands and like millions of people all together, right? So that is not possible manually. So non-functional testing always done with the help of a tool. Okay, functional testing can be done manually as well as with the help of tool. Okay, so we will take a quick 5 minutes break, then we will come. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Sure, ma'am.
I'll stop recording. Pause recording. Okay, so the next topic is software testing levels. So how the software testing progress, like first it will be like unit testing, then the integration testing. Like before that, there are so many other testing also. But the main test, you can say the main, there are different type, there are main levels of testing is these 4: unit testing, integration testing, then system testing, and then acceptance testing. Okay, so we will also learn more about more other testing also later. Now comes the software testing documentation, or the documentation artifacts, which you can see. So this is test plan. Test plan is what? Test plan is a document which describes the software testing scope, activities, like what is the scope of your project. All those things, details is there in the test plan. It is basically or formally all the informations which are there in the project. So all those information are there in the test plan, like all the scope, approach, resource, schedule, or the entry criteria, what all the entry criteria of your project, or exit criteria, like when you are going to exit your project, all those things. Environment, what all environment requirements, documents, like all those things are there in the test plan. Okay, and also the responsibilities, what responsibility you give to which person, that also is there in the test plan. Okay, so test plan is a very important document, and it is created by the either by the test lead or by the testers. Okay. Or also they can be created by the test consultant. So it all depends on the organization that whom they will give the responsibility of creating the test plan document. Okay, but all these things are very important, like scope, approach, resource, schedules, like how you are going to progress your project. So all these things comes under test plan. Now comes the test scenario. It is very important to know difference between test plan and test scenario. It's very important interview question also. Like what is the difference between a test scenario and a test plan? So test scenario consists of a single line statements which notify that the area in which the application will experiment. Like this is the test scenarios. Like it's a single line statement. Like what are the scenarios which you can, like this is an artifact is needed for ensuring that overall procedure of testing from start to finish. Okay, so again this is your test scenario where you need to have your like user IDs, your user requirements on which you are working on it, and what are the test scenarios and how many test cases you have written or required, or how many number of test cases is required for your project or for your module, with how many test cases are required. So so all these documents are come under these test scenario. Okay, now comes the test case. Test case is the activity focused on mainly whether a product went through a set of like test or phase by any means, such as functional or other aspects. So there are many types of test cases being checked during testing, like functional test cases, negative test cases, logical, physical test cases, user interface test cases as well. So these are the combination of all those necessary test cases, which you can write it either in Excel sheet or in any documents, whichever the documents given by your company or the organization. Okay, so usually if you are writing your manual test cases, it is in Excel sheet. Otherwise, you will write your scripts in your editor or somewhere. So these are all the test cases writing. So last is the last artifact, you can say, last documentation artifact is traceability matrix, which is also known as requirement traceability matrix, RTM. So you remember that what is, sometimes they ask you what is RTM. So we'll tell requirement traceability matrix. So this is a this document artifact can be implemented for forward tracing as well as backward tracing. So once the traceability matrix has been formed, and then you start your writing your test cases. Okay. So this is all about, like see, when you have done with your traceability matrix and start writing your test cases, you can see that whether you have written your test cases according to that traceability matrix or not. If your traceability matrix is proper and have all the requirement documents, then you can trace that whether you have not missed any test cases. So all these things can be traced by this requirement traceability matrix. Okay, so that you don't miss any of your test case. Okay, is there any doubt, anything I want to explain again? I can be happy to explain you again.
Can you explain one more time traceability?
Yeah, so see, there is a requirement traceability matrix, or according to your document, like requirement document, which I've told you earlier, right? You have some specification document. So according to that, you make a traceability matrix. Matrix means it's a tabular form in which you write that these are the requirements and these are the things which you have to write, right? It's like a short form of test cases, short, like when you are writing your test case, you check with the traceability matrix that have you missed something, or is there any requirement which is missing, and I have to touch that. Or you can say, there is some, you can trace it with that. There are different, suppose there are different modules, right? And you are writing test cases. You cannot write all your test cases in a one day, correct?
Yeah.
So it might happen that you miss some test cases, like some part of the test case you missed, and you say that, yeah, I have done all the test cases, but then what your lead will do, they will trace it with your traceability matrix, which you have which they have created in the starting, and they will see that whether you have covered all the modules, whether you have covered all the modules test cases, whether you have covered all the all the requirement or not. So that you can tally with the traceability matrix. It has all the requirements and it has all the
like
all the documents.
It's like it's a relationship between requirement and test case.
Okay.
Correct. So it's a relationship between a requirement and the test cases. So if all the requirement is there in your test case, you are okay. But if all the requirement is not in the test cases, then you need to check with your traceability matrix.
Okay. Okay, I got it.
Now comes the defect management. Okay, so defects are the part of the software, right? I mean, if there is a software, there will be defects. Okay, and that is the truth. And that's why software development is a complex process. The team members are usually placed in strict time frames, right? I mean, like developers are also in strict time frames. Testers are also in strict time frames. They must write large piece of code every day and usually don't have time to think about how to avoid bugs. Hence, every software development project requires a process, and that helps to detect the defects and also to fix them, right? So there is a process which they follow. The process of defect management or the bug tracking is usually conducted on the stage of product testing, and without realizing this, that it would be hard to understand the nature of the defect management in the end of the process, right? After the software is developed, it is very hard to find the defect. So while doing the development, usually we should start the defect management process. Okay. So it is very important. See, the software testing can be conducted in two different ways. Usually developer develop the product and test themselves. However, this is not good, right? It's not the best practice, because the developer can hardly, as I told you earlier also, developer is not able to find their own mistakes. Why? Because they have created their work by themselves. So it's hard to find defects in your own work. So these are the 4 steps which are involved in detecting the defects. Okay. Or you can say in the defect management process, there are 4 different steps which are involved, which is defect detection, regardless of what are the types of testing, like either it's manual or automation. Defect detection is the first step to detect all the bugs in your final product. Next step is for modulation of your bug reports. So these are the all the information of the bug, or you can document all your bugs information. Usually they contain the data of what type of a bug it is, the possible way of its correction, right? So you should document it. Okay. Next is bug fixing. After the bug are fixed, they should be tested one more time to make sure that the software works properly. And the final step is bug listing creation. So this is a document. Bug list creation is a document that creates all the information of bug that occurs during the project performance, and team often use this list in the later point of time, like similar bug, if the similar bugs occur. So this is all about this is all about that bugs list, so that you can use it in the later point of time, that if the similar bugs occur, they can refer this list. Correct? Okay, so this is the 4 steps which you should involve when you are doing the defect management process. Okay, the next will be defect bug cycle. Okay, so defect bug life cycle is when you get a new defect. So here what we are doing, we are finding a defect and reporting a defect, bug reporting. So how you report the bug, this is the way you report the bug. Okay, how you, what is the first step? You found a defect, then you will file a defect in the system, whatever system you have given by your organization. So this is the start point of your defect. Then you will, what you will do, this is this you will assign it to someone, correct? And okay, I will tell you that this is done by the tester, that they file a bug. This assignment is done by sometimes by you or by your lead. Okay, so this is assignment is done by you if you know that person, like suppose the developer or the person. It all depends on in the organization that whether you are able to assign the defect or not, or some lead will assign the defect. Okay, now how it will make active, the assigned person will make this active, whether it is an active bug or it's a rejected bug or it's a deferred bug. Deferred bug is what? Like, yes, it is a bug, but it's not come in this module, it will not come in this build, it will come in the later point of time. So that is called deferred. Like in this build, it is not going to solve this problem. We are not going to solve this problem, but in the later point of time, we will again make it active and then we will solve this problem. So it is deferred for the later point of time. So this activity is done by the developer who are gonna make it active, that yes, it's a defect and I am accepting the defect and I make it active. Okay, then they will resolve that defect and then again assign to the tester for testing or retesting, you can say. Okay, so what the tester will do now, here comes the tester responsibility to change it to verified or to reopen it. If it is not resolved, you again retest and reopen and then again make it active, that you can do it. Okay, what I have not told you about the reject, right? So if the bug is not valid, then you can reject it. How you will reject it? You will inform the tester or the developer will inform that this is not an active bug. This is not a bug. This is the correct way how it is behaving, how our project is behaving. So I am rejecting this bug. So they have to inform and then they have to reject that bug. Okay. Now comes the tester. It will verify. Yeah. After retesting, the tester will either they will verify or they will reopen it the defect. Okay. Once it is verified, you can also close it. Okay. Is that clear? This is the bug life cycle. Okay. So all these in all these stages, different peoples are involved, right? Because it's not like all these things done by the tester. No, tester can open the bug. Here, either you can say new or you can also say open. Tester can open the bug. Assignment also can done by the may or may not done by the tester. This activity is done by the developer, and this also activity is done by the developer by changing active to test or retest or whatever option is there in your tool. So, and then again, then the tester come into the picture. Then again, tester will take this further. Okay. So this rejection and deferred activity is done by the developer. And then again, tester will either reopen or verify the bug. Clear? So this is also very important interview question.
Okay.
Yes, he was asking something.
Yeah, I have question. When the developer gonna be say it's rejected, so what gonna be happen? Like again, we have to retest?
No, if it is rejected, see, either you can tell your developer, see, there is a battle also here. Here, sometimes there is a battle between the tester and the, tester and the developer. Then if the tester says, no, it's not rejected, then you can informally ask tester, or if you say that, yes, it's a bug, it's not rejected, you don't have to retest it. Either you can accept it that yes, it's a rejected bug, and then instead of closed, it is rejected.
Okay.
Correct?
Okay.
So it's like a tester's responsibility that you should not have more rejected bugs. Sometimes it's like a bad impression on the on the higher like leads or the project manager that, oh, this tester has so many rejected bugs. So that means he or she don't have that good understanding of the project. So they sometimes they assign to go through again with the project requirements, and all those things happens. Like, but if tester says that, no, I have confidence and this bug should not be rejected, and it's an open bug, or it should be active bug, then there could be some meetings also, like there could be a meeting, and they can developer and tester can join together with their leads, or the clients also can involve to find out that whether this bug which tester has opened is correct or not. So there could be so many ways of resolving. If the tester has confidence or can tell that it's a valid bug, then and if the developer has rejected it, they can raise a concern, and they can email or do it with the other way of doing it with their lead. Okay. So that's how they can resolve this issue.
Okay.
So after rejection also they can make it active.
Okay.
But that is done again by the developer. I mean, developer should make it active. I mean, developer has the what you can say authority to after rejection, developer only has that authority to change it to again to active.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So all these things involves when there is a conflict between tester and the developer. So if the conflict is done by the leads or the project manager, then it's fine. Otherwise, if conflicts go beyond that, then client involves that whether this requirement is proper or not, or whether this is the case of the requirements, or this is the, or how the developer is going to developer understood that is correct, or the tester understood that is correct. So this can go on, and then they can resolve it. Okay. Yeah. So anyone has any doubt, any other doubt apart from this? Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is all about today's session. So these are the interview questions which I have just gathered. So go through these questions and try to find out try to find out all the answers. And if you have any doubt, you can come to me, or you can message me. Okay, so it's good to have all these knowledge before going further to Java. From next class, we are going to start the Java, core Java. Okay. So how does quality control differ from quality assurance? You will get that in the net. Google, you can Google it. What is software testing? I've explained you. What is software testing requirements? What are the two main categories of software testing? Okay, these are the few questions which is very, very good at what is exploratory testing. If you don't understand, I will explain you, no problem. Okay, test coverage. What is test coverage? What is test plan? You should have a good knowledge of a test plan. I have explained you, but just go through again, like all the scope, approach, all these things comes under test plan, right? I mean, entry criteria, exit criteria, environment requirements, no responsibilities requirement. What are the responsibilities given to different people? That all comes under test plan. Okay. So yeah, when to stop testing process. Okay, all these things you should have a at least have a knowledge of that. Okay, so anybody has any doubt? Otherwise, we are done for today's session. And have you all gone through the documents which I have sent you?
Yeah, I did.
Stop. Okay, good, great. I'll stop recording then.